Welcome to Visible Value, a reference library on recognition of youth work in Europe, developed by the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership.
There were the triggers of Jugend voor Europa also, and then I'm especially by Hans-Georg Wieke, who triggered me and invited me in many small seminars and conferences just to say what's next, what can be happened, how we will wave a follow-up on that declaration. In that time also there was amongst civil servants in the EU, I have to say, we had a big fight with the Commission on the new program that later was known as Erasmus for the first time, Erasmus Plus, because in the initial proposal, youth was completely out of the proposal of the Commission. But that is another history. So we finally managed to have our own standing youth chapter with an earmarked budget and all those, and in it also youth work. And then there were different occasions on which I was invited. Thanks to the European Youth Forum also, they invited me on so-called breakfast meetings and also triggered us what's next. I was preparing, because at a certain moment we have to prepare the chairmanship. And my minister, who was completely involved in the first convention and also in the resolution, he agreed that I could make a feasibility study on organizing a second youth work convention, but then in the framework of the chairmanship. The idea was a second convention with a declaration, but then to upgrade the political statement in a resolution adopted by the Committee of Ministers. So 47 ministers of foreign affairs are recognizing youth work and the importance of youth work in all over Europe. And that is another level of political recognition. So we asked again to Howard to write a background paper on it. The focus of the second convention was to celebrate and give direction to the diversity and the diversity of opportunities also, because that was very clear in the first convention. Youth work is so diverse, and even to describe what is youth work, that was not evident. And all the texts are finally based on what Peter Lauritsen was writing in one of his thoughts, and you can find it back in X in a pen. There's a book collected, the speeches, writings, and reflections of Peter Lauritsen, and on page 369, you find really, for me, till today, the best description of what is youth work. And in all the wordings and describings we are using today, all those elements you can find back. And perhaps it's good to bring that defining of youth work from Peter Lauritsen back to our memory, because that's for me also a cornerstone of what we are doing. The question is what brings us together and what makes us stronger, more than divides us, because those are endless of discussions on what is youth work, but it is not helping us. And so in order to foster future developments and also a stronger recognition, that was the ambition also of the second Youth Work Convention. And so to find a common ground, like Howard was calling it. In the declaration, there were more people on board, also in the setting of Council of Europe in that time, in the driver's seat, but together with the EU and the Commission, because I always work with the two institutions. And there was a strong paragraph in it on the recognition and the value, also the value of youth work. Even with the community of practice, those 500 people, they formulated that they want to gain more recognition, and how by promoting and advocacy about youth work by all relevant shareholders, also to work on a greater recognition of NGOs in shaping youth work development. There was the recognition and validation of learning and the achievements that took place and take place through youth work and non-formal learning and informal learning environments. So there was a stronger focus on that because there was a reason also, and I come back on that. And the reason was laying between those two conventions also. And in that declaration, one of the action points was in that time to come up and to create a European agenda for youth work. Today we have a European youth work agenda.
Yeah.
So, and there is an important difference. The next step, and that's another line that brings us to the second convention. So there was the intention of Cyprus to organize that. Then there was organized by the Council of Europe the famous symposium on in November 2011 in Strasbourg, also on the recognition of youth work and non-formal learning, based on pathways of recognition. And you can find the report in Getting There. And I was also in the drafting group. And Getting There is a very famous paper out of our knowledge. But with all those elements, we have to take care of it in the debate of recognition and validation. And in that time, we were convinced, let's start the so-called Strasbourg process. But with the commitment in that time of the director of education and participation of the Council of Europe, and thanks to the expert group of the partnership, because we made also, I was also member of the expert group, an action plan. And that action plan, I'm sure you can find it also in Getting There. And so, and Giselle Everard finally made a report in 2015 with all the work done on the recognition. So therefore it had a strong place in the second Youth Work Convention. And also in the action points of a European agenda for youth work, as it is described in the declaration, the action points were clear. We have to invest in the quality of youth work, a knowledge-based approach. The funding is coming together. It's cross-sectoral towards a common ground. And that was mentioned also, we have to work to a third European Youth Work Convention. And I was forcing that because I knew how difficult is the way from the one convention to the other. And so, yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this resource on recognition of youth work in Europe, brought to you by the EU Council of Europe Youth Partnership.